Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 8th meeting of our committee. It's been 6 months since our last meeting in December of this past year, and I'm very proud to say and very happy to say that all the working groups have made excellent progress on moving forward. While this is probably the last meeting of our committee, though, before the WRC. So I personally want to thank you, and I know everyone here wants to thank you for all your hard work. Today I'm very happy to have Mindell Del Torre here, who's the chief of the International Bureau, and I'd like to ask Mindell to say a few words, if she would.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. I was given some numbers this morning that I just thought that I would go over because it's very impressive. So over 45 private sector entities have registered for the WAC, and many others have been participating. So I thank each and every one of you who have been participating. This is the 8th meeting of the full WAC. There have been 71 meetings of the informal working groups, and that's, as we know, where all the work happens. And I really want to thank, everybody for chairing those groups. I, at one point, was an IWIG or an IWG chair, and I know how much work goes into that. So thank you very much, Audrey. Do I see Audrey somewhere? I don't see Audrey. Anyway, make sure that we know that I thank Audrey. Charlie, I know that IWIG 2 was just a very boring group. Nothing ever happened in there. And then Jack, as usual, did major work in IWIG 3. And then Steve, thank you for all the work that you did in IWIG 4. To me, we've really produced a lot for this particular work. Unfortunately, we haven't finished on everything. I think there still are some outstanding issues that we'll need to continue as a delegation. And I think that hopefully all of you are signed up as delegation members. If you haven't, I suggest you do, particularly from the private sector. I think they actually had the cutoff maybe last week, but we could probably find a way to get you to participate if you want to participate on the U.S. delegation. Just let us know if you're not allowed to do it. We've had the FCC has had 85 recommendations on work 15 from this group, and obviously sometimes there's a view A and a view B, and sometimes there's a view B and a view A, and then. And I know that sometimes we have to split the baby, and that's, I guess, one of the jobs that we do here at the FCC. But we really thank you for all of your thoughtful and very expert input into the process. And I think it really I always tell people that whenever we go to a WRC from the United States, we actually run a mini WRC in the United States before we get there, and that's one reason why a lot of our positions actually end up being a position that's taken internationally. I mean, sometimes we're ahead of the curve, I think, so on issues like at the last conference, the 700 megahertz band, at WRC 07 for the 700, and then for this conference, the below 698. Those are sort of positions that are, probably a little bit more advanced in other countries, so we've got to try to get a lot of support for that. But we'll be the trend setter on those particular issues. And sometimes we're that way, and sometimes we come along after other people have already taken a position, and then we agree with it at the next work, so which is what we're doing on the 3.5 gigahertz band. So I thank you all for all your work, and I'm not going to keep you guys any longer, but I just really wanted to thank each and every one of you for coming and for participating. And thank you for chairing today, Jennifer. That's very nice. And Scott, thank him for chairing for this whole time. Actually, he's been the chair, and then you took Diane's position when Diane came here, right? So thank you for doing that. We really appreciate it, and it makes a big difference to have good chairs in the chairing spot. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mindell. We very much appreciate you taking time to join us. So with that, I was going to move forward to the item number 2 on the agenda, approval of the agenda, which is available in WAC 107. I wanted to see if anyone has any comments on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll declare that the agenda is approved. We're going to move on to item 3 of the agenda, approvals of the minutes of the 7th meeting. That's available in WAC 104. Once again, I'd like to seek comments, if anyone has any comments on the minutes. Great, seeing none, we'll consider that document approved. In addition to the work that we've been doing on the WAC, our colleagues at the federal agencies are also making excellent progress in preparation for the work. In the interim, since our last meeting, the FCC received additional inputs from NTIA, which are provided for consideration by this committee under item 4 of our agenda. The relevant IWGs have already been considering these inputs. Today, we're very pleased to have Lee Ching-sung with us today, and I wanted to give her an opportunity, if she would be so inclined, to provide a brief update.
Thank you, Jennifer. As Jennifer indicated, that there are several NTIA proposals for review at this meeting today. Since the IW chair will present them, so I will not go over them one by one, except to say that we will appreciate the comments that the WAC will provide us, and we will review the comments and reconcile the proposals with the FCC. And also for the new industry proposals that will be presented and may approved by the WAC today, we will review them in RCS. Even though WAC and IWG's work may conclude, but RCS continues. We are still developing new proposals, including proposals for global flight tracking. So just wanted to let you know. And before I conclude, I wanted to thank the WAC and all the IWGs for their hard work over the last 3 years, especially for their review of NTIA proposals and the comments that they provide us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We very much appreciate your update, and we continue to look forward to working with you. I now want to turn to agenda item 5, IWG status reports and consideration of preliminary views and draft proposals. We'd like to start with IWG 1, Maritime, Aeronautical, and Radio Services. At this time, I'd like to invite the Vice Chair of IWG1, Chris Hutchinson from Aviation Spectrum Resources, to please come up and report on the progress of the working group. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Audrey sends her regrets from Geneva. I send my regrets from here. She blindsided me on that one. IWG1 has had one meeting since the last WAC meeting. That was on the 21st of April, and we have 2 documents for consideration by the committee. Our first document is WAC 110, which contains a full replacement of an earlier proposal for agenda item 1.17, which is wireless avionics. The proposal has been updated to reflect consensus reached at the CPM. I present this document for WAC approval.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any comments? Seeing no comments, we'll approve this document. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second document is WAC 111, contains a new recommended proposal to modify the future conference agenda item for Work 21 on GMDSS. And again, I present this document for the WAC's approval.
Thank you again. Does anyone have any comments on this document? Hearing none, we'll declare this document approved.
In addition, we would like to note our support for the federal government draft proposal for agenda item for the preliminary work agenda for, I think, Work 21 or beyond, whatever it happens to be, on spaceborne radar sounders contained in document WAC 106. Both Audrey and I would like to convey our deepest, sincerest gratitude to the IWG1 members who worked hard and tirelessly to complete our work, and I think they've done a fantastic job, and it was very nice to see the cooperation and collegial atmosphere that prevailed. But thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and thanks to you and Audrey and all of IWG1 for the terrific work you've done. With that, I'd like to turn over to IWG2, Terrestrial Services, and I'd like to invite the chair of IWG, to Charlie Rush from TMG, to report on the IWG2's progress. Charlie?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning, Kathy, Jennifer, Alex, Mindell, ladies and gentlemen. I have 6 documents to present, 2 different views or opinions on each of, 7 documents. So that means I have 14 views so sit back, kick back, put your feet up, and hopefully this will go quickly. What I would like to do, if I could, Madam Chair, is to take my presentation a little bit out of order from what appears on the agenda. I'd like to take WAC 112, WAC 114, and WAC 115 in that order. The reason being that those 3 documents are in response to a specific NTIA input into WAC and contained in WAC 105. And there's a great deal of commonality within, about those documents. If you don't mind, then I'll proceed with WAC 113 and 16, 17, and 18.
That sounds very reasonable. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. WAC 112, as well as 114 and 115, as I said, are documents that are the result of, or were generated as a result of comments sent to the WAC by NTIA, and the pertinent WAC document, as far as we're concerned, relates to WAC 105, and there's 3 separate frequency bands that are of interest to the people that have undertaken work under Agenda Item 1.1 in WAC in IWIG 2, and it's the 1300 to 1400 megahertz band, the 27 to 2900 megahertz band, and the 4400 to 4990 megahertz band. In all 3 cases, the inputs into the WAC and to the IWIG from NTIA were pretty much in accord with proposals that the United States had forwarded to the February 2015 CTEL PCC2 meeting in Medellin, Colombia. And those proposals that the United States had submitted, I believe, are now preliminary proposals in CTEL. However, IWIG 2 had not had an opportunity to comment upon those proposals prior to their submission to CTEL, and we are now in the position to being able to comment on those. With regard to all 3 of these documents, 112, 114, 115, IWIG 2 members were unable to reach consensus on a proposal for the WAC for our WRC-15 agenda item, and therefore we have 2 views on each and every one of those 3 documents. So we have 2 views on the 1300, 1400 band, 2700, 2900 band, and the 4400, 4990 band. I don't need to go into a lot of the details other than to say the NTIA proposal ostensibly was to propose no change in the radio regulations table of frequency allocation for those 3 bands. And the industry, or the WAC IWIG 2 group, had a divergence of opinion as to whether to support the proposal that that's in the NTIA provided document in WAC 105, and also became the U.S. position at the CTEL February 2015 meeting. View A folks supported the NTIA position / the U.S. position. And I'll read out the names of those who supported the position, because it's basically the same individuals or the same companies in all of the views that are going to be addressed, at least under the Agenda Item 1.1. Aviation Spectrum Resources, EchoStar Corporation, Inmarsat, Intelsat, Lockheed Martin, New Wave Spectrum Partners, SES Americom, and the Boeing Company. If anyone wants to add their name, the name of their company, to either View A or View B, you, I believe, are empowered to do so if you are present at the meeting and if you are a part of the, if you are a registered WAC member. View B proponents took a slightly different view and do propose some changes to each and every one of these three documents. And with regard to the 1300 to 1400 band, they do support the notion of having no change global to the radio allocation globally in the 1300 to 1350 band, but do support only a no change in the band 1350 to 1400 in Region 2. And propose not making any comment at this point in time. The United States not making any comment or taking a stand on the on any aspects of 1300 to 1350 to 1400 in regions 1 and 3. That is the essence of our position with regard to the 1350, 1400 megahertz band. So if I could, Madam, I would like to present this to you as a proposed response, or as proposed response to the document that came from NTIA, to submit this to the Commission, and then you can do what you need to do to deal with the somewhat disparate viewpoints.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do I have any comments on documents 112, 114, or 115, if I got the numbers right?
That's fine. If you want me, for the record, to I only introduced the one for 1300 and 1400.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But if you want to take them all,
yeah, let's do that, Charlie.
The 2700, 2900,
yeah, because you
the
presented
same,
them
and the 4400, 4900.
Yeah, if you could add those, that would be helpful.
Okay. So that's that is my proposal, that for the WAC to approve the three documents, one, and the material contained in WAC 112, 114, and 115.
Thank you. So do we have any comments on those three documents? Or anyone else who wants to add their name to either of the views? Okay, hearing none, then those documents are approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam. I apologize for going into some detail on these documents, but there are, while it may appear to be a little bit inconsequential, insignificant, some of the details are rather important to those of us who have spent a goodly portion of the last 2 years or so addressing these issues. WAC 113 is a document that has been put together as a response to material contained in WAC 109 from NTIA. And this is a draft proposal that impacts the 1375 to 1400 megahertz and the 1427 to 1452 megahertz band. In this particular document, WAC IWIG 2 members were unable to reach a consensus on the proposal regarding essentially the impact on what is going to be discussed on the 1427 to 1518 megahertz frequency range, and we have two viewpoints. The view A for this particular document is to support the NTIA proposal, which proposes to have mandatory limits placed on IMT unwanted emissions that are given in Resolution 750 of Work 12 to protect the passive Earth exploration satellite service operating in the 1400-1427 band from IMT systems operating in bands immediately adjacent to 1400 to 1427. So what we have here is a proposal to increase the out-of-band emissions that any IMT system, if it were identified, in bands that are outside of 1400 to 1427 megahertz in order to protect the 1400, 1427 band. The view A is that they would support the limits that have been put forward by NTIA. There are also some proposed changes of an editorial nature that are incorporated into the view A view, but they do not change the ultimate conclusion. View B, proponents are of the view that the studies that were undertaken to come up with the mandatory limits that are proposed for IMT should be further reviewed. And we ask the Commission to do two things if they are going to consider following the proposal given in WAC 109. And those two things are to, first of all, assess whether or not the proposed out-of-band emission limits are consistent with the Commission's rules. And the other issue that we've asked the FCC to consider is that the studies that have been undertaken to determine the new out-of-band emission limits have they used and relied on realistic assumptions regarding to the deployment of IMT systems, particularly with regard to the expected IMT systems, LTE systems in the United States. Those data are not generally available, but we believe that they could be obtained if needed by requesting some information from operators. So basically, that's the two views. One view is to accept the mandatory limits that are given in a resolution, or to look at whether it's appropriate, and if not appropriate, also view B position is to perhaps consider taking limits that are now within the resolution as optional and make them mandatory, as opposed to adding new mandatory limits that are much more onerous from a IMT out-of-band perspective than is currently there. So with that, Madam, I submit this document to you for your action for consideration of approval at today's meeting.
Thank you, Charlie. Does anyone have any comments on document 113? Hearing none, we'll approve the document. Thank you.
Okay. You tired yet? WAC 116. This is, again, a document that has two views, a view A and a view B, and it pertains to the 5925, 6425 megahertz band. IWIG 2 was not able to reach consensus. We therefore have the view A and the view B. The view B is to support the notion of having a no change to the radio regulations table of allocation for this frequency range only in Region 2, but no proposed position for the United States to take for Regions 1 and 3. View A position is that the U.S. should not propose any changes to the radio regulations globally. And now, understand that changes to the radio regulations in the context of what we're talking about with Agenda Item 1.1 could involve an allocation to the mobile service on a primary basis, or in the case where you have and subsequent identification for IMT operation or mobile broadband, or in the case where you already have a mobile allocation, such as in the case of this particular band, 5925, 6425, that it would take that mobile allocation and identify it with the ability to utilize it for IMT or mobile broadband applications. So we here again two of the same sorts of views as we had with WAC 113, with WAC 112, 14, and 15. View A, no change in the radio regulations. View B, change in Region 1 and 3. And
Thank
again,
you.
please I submit this to you for your consideration, Madam.
Thank you, Charlie. On document 116, does anyone have any comments? Seeing none, we'll approve this document. Thank you.
Okay. I will now close my efforts on agenda item 1.1, almost there, and move to agenda item 10. This is agenda items for WRC-15, proposals for agenda items at future WRCs. And we have two proposals. One given in WAC 117 is a proposal to study and consider appropriate regulatory actions and expansion of frequency ranges of existing identifications for HAPS, high altitude platform stations. Again, we have two views, those who are in favor of the proposal, those who are against the proposal. The view, and in this case, this is supported, the support for the HAPS agenda item for WRC 19 is given by Alcatel-Lucent and by Harris, Wilshire, and Grannis. And their proposal is to look at, as I said, HAPS considerations for expanding the frequency ranges that are in existing identifications for HAPS within the fixed service allocations in the radio regulations, and identifying possible additional frequency ranges, and revising the technical and regulatory restrictions as appropriate that are associated with the existing HAPS identification. Now, the important point to take out from all this is that in order to operate a HAPS system, you have to have the HAPS system specifically identified as being able to do that within the radio regulations. And that's the nuance here. The View B proposal here is sort of an alternate formulation of what is given in View A, and that is that they don't support the broad frequency range that's given in View A, and they have questions regarding protection criteria for existing services in the bands where HAPS may be potentially identified, and they want to specifically limit the expansion of the frequency ranges of the existing identifications in HAPS within the fixed service. View B is supported by DirecTV, EchoStar, Inmarsat, Intelsat, New Wave Spectrum Partners, and SES Americom. And with that, Madam, I turn this document over to you for your action for approval.
Thank you, Charlie. On document 117, do we have any comments? I see one person going up. Can you just announce yourself before?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Winston Caldwell with 21st Century Fox, and we'd just like to add the name 21st Century Fox to the list of View B supporters. Thank you.
Thank you. Tricia Paletta, maybe can you identify yourself beforehand too?
So I'm Tricia Paletta at Harris, Wilshire, and Grannis, and we were one of the authors of 117 View A, along with Alcatel-Lucent. And I do want to thank the proponents of View B, not Win, but everybody else who worked very hard on this. We had about 6 different meetings and a lot of email correspondence and sidebar conversations. So we were trying to get to consensus for the FCC, and we do appreciate the efforts. For some of the more veteran folks in the room, there's a long history of high-altitude platform stations, but it was, 20 years back. It was through the U.S. leadership of folks 20 years ago who did first put an identification on the books for high-altitude platform stations. We think that's an important point of history. In the subsequent WRCs, there were 3 different identifications added to the radio regs, but none of those are global. And they have a number of both technical and geographic limitations, particularly in our region where at least our client, Google, is looking to deploy sort of a new and improved version of HAPS. As one of their senior execs announced in March on the world stage at World Radio Congress, or where's the GSMA representative? In Barcelona. They are looking at deploying lightweight, solar-paneled, unmanned planes to deliver broadband. They would be circling in a circle, so they would meet the current HAPS definition of a device or platform 20 to 50 kilometers. They're looking at 20 kilometers to serve a fixed location on the ground below. So there is a history, but of course there's been a tremendous amount of investment and new research and development, including by leading U.S. Technology companies. So this isn't your father's HAPS. This is a new and improved version, and there's so much innovation in this space. We do feel the time has finally come to really look at those identifications and see, whether there isn't sufficient capacity to deliver broadband as folks have come to demand it, and of course to extend that into regions that have no broadband infrastructure. The beauty of HAPS is it's high up enough that you have a nice big service contour at the ground below, but you can deliver broadband at sufficient low latency. So with that, we just would urge the FCC to adopt the proposal of UA. We of course prefer, but we do think it is important to have the U.S. showing a positive use case for unmanned aerial systems at this time, and the ITU discussions, and to continue to lead the world in mobile broadband innovation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. Is there any other comments? Sir? You can go. Well, Chris, just identify yourself.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Chris Bjornson. I'm with Steptoe & Johnson, and I'm a member of the WAC. I have discussed View A of WAC Doc IWG2 number 063 with my client Facebook, and I would like to observe that it is an appropriate proposal for future studies. It identifies a finite range of bands which can be studied and refined in the ITU study process leading into WRC 2019. It protects existing users of the spectrum while still leaving flexibility for important testing of this broadband platform in which leading companies are investing. Facebook is not a member of the WAC, and so it has not been able to officially join View A at this time, but it plans to support View A when the FCC requests comments from the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And I saw a gentleman, I don't know who it is in the back, purple, turquoise shirt, I guess. Yeah.
Bob Dockemeyer, Delphi. We wanted just to express a concern.
Could you repeat, who are you with? I'm sorry.
Delphi.
Thank you.
Okay. With the adjacent, to be in contact with any changes to these views, as it is the edge of the DSRC band at the 5925.
Thank you. Any other comments? Kim.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to comment on behalf of View B that SES Americom supports. We did spend a lot of time working with Tricia and her group to find a way forward, and our efforts were really to focus on the most viable frequency bands that would allow us to find a way forward that's successful for HAPS, but really try to minimize the amount of resources that are necessary from both, I think, the government and industry. As we've all experienced, I think, wide open agenda items that are really hard to focus and find a successful way forward. And that's really the underlying goal of View B. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Anyone else? Any other comments? Okay. Well, this was a lively item. So thank you, everyone. We'll add, just to summarize, we'll add 21st Century name to the supporters of View A, and we'll note View B. Sorry, I got it mixed up. Sorry, View B. Sorry about that.
And we'll switch it around. In agenda item 1.1, that the View A is the ones who would say maybe against the and in the and in view 110 right. the View A are the folks that are pro.
Okay, so with that, we'll add 21st Century's name to View B, and we'll note the comments made by Facebook, Delphi, and SES in the minutes of the meeting. So with that, I assume I can declare the document approved. Seeing no objections, thank you. And Charlie, please present the next document.
Okay, thank you, Madam. The WAC document 118 calls for an agenda item to deal with allocation of spectrum, the identification of spectrum above 6 gigahertz for IMT and for mobile broadband at WRC 19. We have two proposals. View A, which want an allocation or an agenda item specifically addressing the identification of frequency bands for the terrestrial component of IMT, and bands above 6 gigahertz, including appropriate mobile allocations if needed to facilitate the development of mobile broadband. And that view is supported by Alcatel-Lucent, AT&T, Ericsson, Intel Corporation, Motorola Mobility, Nokia Solutions and Networks, Samsung, Sprint, Telecommunications Management Group, and Verizon. The View B proponents are of the view that the View A is a little too broad, too open-ended frequency-wise, and fails to take into account existing services and fails to propose a suppression of the resolution that has guided the work through WRC-15 below 6 gigahertz. And also they point out that there's text in the document that in the View A document that appears to be material that does not appropriately belong in a proposal to a WRC. View B is supported by EchoStar, Inmarsat, Intelsat, Iridium, Lockheed Martin, New Wave Spectrum Partners, SES Americom, the Boeing Company, and Viasat. With that, Madam, I submit this document to your hands for consideration for approval at today's meeting.
Thank you, Charlie. Anyone have any comments on document 118? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Again, Winston Caldwell, 21st Century Fox. We would like to add the company name 21st Century Fox to the list of supporters of View B. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Brennan Price of ARRL, the National Association for Amateur Radio. Madam Chairman, we would like to support the result indicated in View B and would like to be added to the list. We do so for a slightly different rationale than that which is expressed in View B, which we will be elaborating upon in written comments filed in a timely fashion. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thanks, Brendan. Anyone else have comments? Okay, seeing no comments, we'll add 21st Century Fox and AARL's support to View B. Sorry.
Madam Chairman, just to clarify, the name of our organization is ARRL, 1A, 2 Rs.
Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that. ARRL, I apologize. We'll add ARRL and 21st Century Fox to View B. So with that, the document is approved.
Thank you, Madam. That concludes my presentation for documents and my IWIG-2 report, but I would, if with your permission, like to make a few comments. I know I've taken up a lot of time, but I think it's important. First of all, I would like to thank all the participants in the IWIG-2 process for their efforts and the professional manner with which we dealt IWIG-2 deliberations. I think the comments made by Ms. Paoletta and Ms. Baum are testimony to the fact that we have gladly undertaken reviews of all disparate views and have come to some sort of an agreement. I think that the record is very clear that we were unable to come to an agreement on many issues, but nonetheless we did throughout the entire process of discussion, negotiation, however you want to characterize it, show respect for each other's views and acted in a very, very professional manner. And I do thank the participants in IWIG-2 for carrying that behavior out in everything that we did. I would also like to thank my vice chair and IWIG-2, Jane Stankavage, who literally made it possible for me to serve as the chairman. She was always there for me, had my back on all occasions, and never refrained from undertaking any task, no matter how large or how small. And Jane, you really are the best. And finally, I'd like to thank Mr. Royblatt, our designated federal officer. He was a fountain of knowledge for me and willfully provided me guidance and his valuable insights to help see through the morass that at times was IWIG-2. I thank you very much, Alex. You're a true friend. Thank you, Madam.
So thank you, Charlie, and thank you for the IWG-2 for all of their great work. So with that, I'd like to move on to IWG-3. and Space Services. I'd like to invite Jack Weingrenick from DirecTV, who's the chairman, to come up and report on the progress.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair. So now we see where all the fun has been. This is going to be really boring in IWG3. So let's see. IWG3 has had 3 meetings since the last WAC meeting. And Kim Baum, my vice chair, and I have tag teamed back and forth on chairing those meetings as we have through the entire this entire process. So the first document that I have is on agenda item 1.5 of the upcoming conference. So for those of you who have been paying attention, IWG3 brought a proposal on 1.5 to one of the previous WAC meetings. I don't remember which one it was, but it was document WAC 85. That proposal has subsequently been considered in CTEL. It's been discussed with other administrations at CPM. It's had further refinement in the ITU. And as a consequence of all of that, we now bring to you a wholesale replacement for that previous proposal, which was in WAC 85, and that is in document WAC 119. So again, this is a revised version and is meant to replace the previous proposal, and it benefits from a considerable amount of additional development that has occurred since the offering of the first proposal. So with that, I offer it for your consideration.
Thank you, for document 119, are there any comments? Seeing no comments, we'll approve the document. Thank you.
Okay, and then I think the other 4 documents that I have are all dealing with future agenda items. So the first is WAC 120, so agenda item 10. This is a proposed agenda item for the next conference to look at the development of a possible regulatory framework for non-GSO systems, non-GSO FSS systems operating in the FSS allocations in the 30, 40, and 50 gigahertz band. It recognizes that today there's basically only one way for them to operate. It's 22.2, which says that they have to cease or reduce to a negligible level, blah, 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 blah. And this is looking at the ways that this issue was addressed in other frequency bands and asking could similar types of mechanisms be used in these frequency bands. So to study that and to see what results from that study. So with that, I offer it for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there any comments on document 120? Seeing no documents, we'll declare it approved. Comments.
Okay, the next one is WAC 121, again a future agenda item, or proposed future agenda item dealing with spectrum requirements for advanced satellite services in 2 very specific frequency ranges. You see them there, 8.5 to 9 gigahertz, 32.3 to 37 gigahertz, with the recognition that the existing C, KU, and KA band FSS allocations are becoming saturated, and that the spectrum requirements and applications for FSS continue to grow. And now is the time to look at the possibility of whether there is any possibility of identifying additional allocations for the FSS in these ranges.
Thank you, Jack. So with regard to document 121, are there any comments? Seeing none, we'll approve the document. Thank you.
Okay, the next one is WAC 122, Earth stations on aircraft operating in the FSS in the frequency band 12.75 to 13.25 gigahertz. Really, this is playing off of the fact that we addressed a very similar issue at WRC 03 in the 14.0 to 14.5 gigahertz Earth to space or aircraft to space direction. And this is really asking the ITU community to consider whether or not we could do something similar in the 12.75 to 13.25 gigahertz band, realizing that these aircraft systems are growing and everybody wants broadband on aircraft, and this would be one way to do it. And so it's asking for studies to be done to see what could be done to accommodate that. So I offer it for your consideration.
Thank you. For document 122, are there any comments? Hearing no comments, we'll approve the document. Thank you.
Okay, and then finally I have WAC 129. So this is actually some IWG3 proposals for edits to an existing NTIA draft proposal for under Agenda Item 10. And it's actually an NTIA proposal for work 20, whatever the one is after the 21, 23, whatever it is, 21, I guess, yeah. It's dealing with space weather, and really these are just refinements that we offer back to NTIA to improve the precision and of the existing draft proposal that they have, or draft future agenda item, and really just to tighten up some of the text in various places. So with that, we offer it to you to offer back to NTIA.
Thank you. Do we have any comments on document 129? Hearing none, we'll approve the document. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, as the other IWG chairs have done, I'd like to thank certainly all the participants of IWG3. I don't think we brought any non-consensus document to this committee. I certainly would like to thank Kim. As I say, we tag teamed back and forth on sharing meetings for various reasons throughout the process. I'd like to thank Alex, but he didn't do anything to help me. So no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's always, no matter how long you do this process, you always learn something, and Alex always teaches me something along the way. So, and of course, I'd like to thank all of you for putting up with us throughout this process. So, with that, I close.
Thank you, Jack, and thanks, Kim, and thanks to all of IWG3 for your terrific work. With that, I'd like to turn the floor over for IWG4 regulatory issues, and I'd like to invite Steve Baruch up. Steve is with New Wave Spectrum, and he's been the chair of IWG4.
Okay, well, thank you, Jennifer, and good morning. Since our last WAC meeting, we've had 2 meetings of IWG4 in this cycle, and we bring for you today 6 documents and 1 comment for your consideration. So the first document you'll find, the first 4 documents deal with Agenda Item 7, where we have had now 12 issues identified through the CPM for this always challenging agenda item. And that has to do with the regulatory and procedural considerations for API and coordination and recording of satellite systems and networks. So the first document you'll see, which is WAC 123, is a set of comments from IWG4 on the draft NTIA proposal for Agenda Item 7, Issue D, that came over in WAC 105. So what we have here really are no substantive disagreements with the NTIA proposal, but what we've done is use the benefit of the CPM, which came in the interim between when we received this document from NTIA and now, to align the U.S. proposal with the agreements that the U.S. made at the CPM on the regulatory procedural considerations for this particular issue. So what you have in this document are those adjustments, and we provide them in the form of comments on the NTIA proposal. So with that, I offer you document 123.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments on document 123? Seeing none, we'll approve the document. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next document is WAC 124. This is a proposal that originates in IWG4 for Issue G under Agenda Item 7, and that is clarification of the bringing into use information that's provided under Radio Regs 11.44 and 11.44b. And what we have here is, to put it in its smallest nutshell, a mechanism for allowing the application of the procedures in number 13.6 to assignments that have been declared as brought into use but are not yet recorded in the master register. So this is a small change that has come through the special committee and CPM processes, and we believe in IWG4 that is a good idea for the U.S. to endorse as well. So we offer that proposal for your consideration.
Thank you. For document 124, are there any comments? Hearing none, we'll approve the document. Thank you.
Okay. Our next document is WAC 125, and in this document it is again a set of comments from IWG4 and hopefully the WAC on the Issue H proposal from NTIA. And here we have no substantive difficulty again with what is proposed in NTIA. We agree with that completely, but there have been some adjustments to the CPM text on this issue between the special committee and the CPM, And the changes that we reflect all in the background here are intended to align the proposal with material that is now reported in the final version of the CPM text as opposed to the draft version. So we offer this document, and issue H, for those who haven't been following this closely, and shame on you for not doing that, is satellite hopping. And so we can leave the description to the imagination of those not particularly interested in it, but it is a fascinating issue. So I offer you document 125.
Thank you, Steve. Document 125, are there any comments? Hearing none, the document will be approved. Thank you.
Okay. And our final document on agenda item 7 is a proposal, again, originating in IWG4 for issue I under agenda item 7. And that is an issue that is an attempt to address the subject. I'm not going to call it an issue, but I'll call it the subject of excessive filings, both at the API stage and at the coordination stage for satellite networks. And so what we have here is a proposal for no change under this agenda item, and we do want to emphasize that this, we reflect there's some interrelationship between some of the issues on elements of this proposal, and that's all captured in the background. But the proposal here is that we are not committing in the U.S. that there is a problem under this issue, and therefore have a proposal that reflects that view. So I offer you document 126.
Thank you. Any comments on document 126? Hearing none, the document will be approved. Thank you.
Okay. So that completes agenda item 7. We'll move now to agenda item 9. And what we have in document WAC 127 is comments of IWG4, and in this case not on an NTIA proposal, but on an existing U.S. proposal. So we brought a U.S. proposal, and this is on the coordination ARC issues, and I believe we brought it to the last CTEL meeting. But what we've done in this document is align the background of this proposal, not the substance, but the background, with the changes that were made to the introductory material in the CPM report. There was some renumbering of options, some removal of options, a lot of deck chairs rearranged on that ship. And what we've done is try to capture that in the red lines that you'll see here to the U.S. proposal for this item. So it's not a replacement for the U.S. proposal, but intended to be an alignment of the U.S. proposal with the CPM text on this issue. So with that explanation, I offer you document 127.
Thank you. Any comments on document 127? Hearing none, the document will be approved. Thank you.
Okay, and our final document this morning is on agenda item 10. And here we bring to you a proposal to study an issue that is near and dear to our broadcast satellite operators' hearts, and this is on Annex 7 to Appendix 30, which is the BSS, one of the BSS provisions in the radio regulations, and we are trying to make an effort to do some modification or elimination of provisions on orbital limitations on BSS satellites. And so the idea here is that we would study this for the next cycle and hopefully be able to come back through either a new agenda item or agenda item 7 at the next conference and address this long overdue issue. So it's a proposal for a new agenda item or agenda item for WRC-15 in WAC 128, and I offer you that for consideration.
Thank you. Any comments on document 128? Hearing none, the document will be approved. Thank you.
Okay, and then finally, before closing remarks, I want to express the view that IWG4 has instructed me to report to the WAC that there are no comments on the NTIA proposal in document WAC 105 on agenda item 9.2 for clarification in the radio regulations of the use of the Space Research Service deep space allocation. So we reviewed that proposal. We offer no comments. We do offer the additional observation, and this is an observation that came up in IWG4 from the federal side, that there were some adjustments to the method that is in WAC 105 at CPM, and we reviewed the CPM text with the guidance of those observations, and we offer no comments on the method as modified at the CPM as well. So we want to make clear that it's not just the document that came in, but it's also the document in the CPM text. So hopefully that will help in reconciliation. So with that, I conclude the presentation. If I could take a moment to thank first my co-chair, my current co-chair, Mr. Ladson, my original co-chair, who is now on the FCC staff, Dr. Albuquerque. He started out this process for us, and both have been very helpful, and occasionally, in the case of Mr. Ladson, given some of the reports to this meeting, or to this group. Obviously, the core agenda item 7 aficionados in IWG4 have done this for a long time. They are mired in the details, and we love discussing these things. It's just fascinating to us, even if it's completely over the heads or glazing over the eyes of everybody else in the room. So I want to thank all the participants in IWG4 for those contributions, their efforts, their insights. And certainly I want to thank Alex, but I have the same opinion as Jack did of him. But through Alex, I will thank Joe Hill and Sankar and Chip Fleming, who assisted us capably throughout this process and on some of the nuts and bolts. I want to make sure that they get their acknowledgement. So with that, thank you very much, and that concludes my remarks.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks again to your co-chair, Damon, and of course to all of IWG4. You've done terrific work. We appreciate it. With that, I'm going to move on to item 6 of the meeting agenda, future meetings. As we discussed, we're not anticipating having any more additional meetings of this WAC, which is sad, because I look forward to seeing you all every few months. But more importantly, we did provide in WAC document 004 a list of future meetings, and you'll note in red a few very important meetings, including a work delegation meeting on June 4th, so just to call your attention to that. Before I turn the floor over, let me ask if there's any other business first. Chris, please.
I just wanted to
suggest... Can you identify yourself?
Oh, Chris Murphy in Merced.
Thank you.
I just wanted to suggest that every time I come in here and I see all the paper over prepared for the meeting, one, Donna does a fantastic job of supporting these meetings. But it seems like for the next WAC, we might want to consider moving to a paperless meeting. I think the people watching on the internet and that sort of thing probably use the excellent website that you have now, and we all have tablets and things like that. Having the paper here obviously is helpful, because if people haven't read things or can't use the devices, it makes it a little bit easier, but it seems like an awful lot of paper and resources that you're using. So just a thought.
Thank you, Chris. That's an excellent thought, and I'm sure the FCC staff will go back and consider that. I think you may even have some supporters. Any other? You've been at the ITU too long. Any other comments? So with that, before I turn the floor over to Alex for closing remarks, on behalf of Scott Harris, the chair of the WAC, and myself, I truly want to thank everyone for all of their work. It's been a tremendous process, and I think the United States is in a very good place going forward to the upcoming work and also shaping the future conferences. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the work of each of the chairs and vice chairs. I know how much dedication each of them has shown, as well as the members of each of the IWGs. And then, of course, last but not least is the FCC staff, in particular Alex Royblatt, and all the other folks who have supported us, including Donna and Kathy, and of course Mindell, and the staff people at the FCC, who without their help and their support, we wouldn't be able to accomplish this. And then finally, I want to thank our federal partners too, who play a very important role in our discussion process and in letting us have an opportunity to comment on their documents. We appreciate it. So just wanted to express my thanks to all of you, and I'll look forward to seeing all of you in Geneva and at other places in the upcoming months. And with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Alex.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, we knew that this day was coming for a while, and yet it's difficult to say goodbye. Of course, I'm speaking of the David Letterman show. As for the WAC, we are not saying goodbye. We're transitioning to our next phase of preparations for WRC. Before I we do that, I wanted to recognize the great work of all the members of the committee. As Mendel mentioned, we produced over 80 recommendations, many of which were the foundation for the U.S. proposals, and thereby will be the foundation for the U.S. success at the WRC. While I have this microphone, I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank all the leadership of this committee. First, starting with IWG1, Audrey Allison and Chris Hutchins. They led our maritime, aeronautical, and radar group, affectionately known as the Martians. And in addition to their many skills, they speak Martian, so that's great. Thank you for all your work. IWG2, probably the most controversial of our groups and a very difficult task. But Charlie and Jane have done an amazing job and very professional manner. Charlie shared with me that he plans to retire after this WRC. I'm afraid that this might be in part due to his chairmanship of IWG2 for the last 3 years. But deep inside, I hope that he'll change his mind. We'll work on that. IWG3, Jack Wingering and Kim, you guys did an amazing job, and of course it's all thanks to your expertise. I think it's the most prolific group of the committee. You generated the most proposals, and again, thank you for all your work. And the regulatory group, IWG4, Steve Brook and Damon Latson, again, the experts, and they made navigating the intricacies of the radio regulations seem easy. It's not, and so don't try it without them. And of course, my leads here, Scott and Jennifer. When we started this process, Jennifer was at the FCC, so I'm really glad how it all worked out. That FCC's loss was our gain, and I really enjoyed working with Scott. He's a great guy, and he had a perfect attendance record until this meeting. So he was the Cal Ripken of the WAC, and I don't know what happened. So anyhow, thank you everyone. And before I forget, I also wanted to thank Donna Christensen, who has not only the organizational skills but also the patience to deal with this process, which is really challenging, and without her it would not be possible. So thank you again, everyone, and I look forward to working with you in U.S. delegation or at WRC. Thank you.